Welcome in, everybody. It is great to have you joining us for our Thinkful Speaker Series event today. And that is LinkedIn optimization and impressive portfolios. Hopefully that's what you're here for. If not, stick around. We've got some great conversation with our topic expert, Mr. Jason Humphrey here, that we will be getting to dive into everything that you need to be doing to talk about how to make your LinkedIn the best that it can be, how to build out the right portfolios and that right body of work to make that big career change, to break into this space. We'll start things off with some very brief introductions. Brief for myself. My name is Dodge McIntosh. I'm going to be moderating our session here today. Going to be trying to mine the beautiful brain, the beautiful mind here of Mr. Jason Humphrey, see all of that information that we can pull out here together, and hopefully get some good tips and tricks from my LinkedIn, which has not been updated for quite a little bit. So Jason, I'm going to be personally relying on you during today's conversation as well. A little bit of context for myself. I'm a data science mentor for Thinkful, based here in San Diego, California. I've been teaching data science and machine learning courses for a couple of years now. Been with Thinkful since the beginning of 2019. Before getting into the data science field and kind of that greater tech field at large, which we'll be talking about, I had pretty much zero programming experience. So for those of you out there who are also thinking you've got little to none, or you're looking to make that big career change or maybe learn a couple new skills, it's possible from whatever background you're coming in with. Right? I always like to tell my students and potential students, other people have learned how to use these tools and techniques. If you're another person, you're willing to work hard and apply yourself, you can pick them up too. Let me go ahead and share my LinkedIn right there in the chat. Please feel free to connect with me there. You don't have to, but like I said, always happy to continue that conversation. And for everybody else out there, if you'd like to share your LinkedIn there in the chat, again, totally optional, but a lot of people do like to use this as a place to connect with each other, connect with everybody else who's attending as part of this community. If you'd like to do that, more than welcome to do so. Wonderful. So that's me. Now for a very brief introduction for our guest speaker today, Mr. Jason Humphrey. So Jason is a principal software engineer at Fidelity and also the founder of Coding Career Fastlane, helping developers achieve success through all stages of their career. You can also find him on YouTube, on Facebook, and feel free to connect with him, of course, like today, on LinkedIn. We've got all of Jason's contact information posted in that reference sheet. So we would both be more than happy to connect with you over there. With that, welcome in, Jason. Great to have you joining us today.
Pleasure to be here. It's an honor. Thank you, Dodge.
Yeah, of course. The pleasure is really, it's all mine. And like I said, I am going to be taking away some of our tips and tricks, some of our trade secrets for my own personal benefit today. So it really is my pleasure for hosting you here. So I talked very, very briefly about kind of your background, the work that you're doing now. Before we dive into some of our other points that we're going to get to about LinkedIn, about building out those impressive portfolios, wondering if you could just talk a little bit more about your career journey and what's brought you to where you are today.
Yeah, sure thing. Excited to be here with all you guys tonight. I think we have a lot of great stuff in store. And so to start with Dodge's first question, kind of my background, how I got here to today. Earlier in my career, I went to college to get I thought a computer science degree was actually switched out on me into an information systems degree, which doesn't really teach you much, and went into the career at Fidelity through a post-grad program. Ultimately, it was a boot camp. It was a 6-month training, 3 months of work, 3 months of project work. It was a boot camp at Fidelity. It's called Elite Program. I was fortunate enough to get to go into it because I was not a good developer. I was awful. I was one of the worst. And as I progressed in the first couple of years of my career, I realized that I was going nowhere fast, and I thought things were just kind of owed to me. Lo and behold, I luckily found a mentor who kind of set me straight. And ever since that moment in time, I'd been on a different trajectory because of a lot of different reasons. But one of the reasons that sticks out that he set me on the path to was actually start mentoring. So about 5 years ago, I actually started mentoring with Thinkful. And that was one of the big steps in my career, was actually teaching people as a part of, I'd say, a process of learning that has to be achieved. Is you have to teach people, because if you don't truly know something until you teach it. And so over the last 5 years, I have been mentoring people at Thinkful to get jobs. Successfully, I've gone through 38 people myself from start to finish, but I've helped well over 1,000 people get jobs here because of all the different Q&A sessions I do, all the help I do, from portfolios, resumes, salary negotiation, interviews, basically any career service type aspect you need, I've become really good at in the last 5 years. And that's where I found my niche now. And that's really what I focus on. Yes, I still do the mentoring. Yes, I'm still a programmer at Fidelity, but I've gotten really good at optimizing all the things that help people get jobs. And that's where I made in recent years, actually over the last year and a half. That's why I made Coding Career Fastlane. What it is it's my side business. It's my company who sets out to help people with anything in the career services that you may need, even if it's just as simple as you need help with salary negotiations, or even if it's just LinkedIn optimizations. And we take a systematic approach to get you from A to Z, to help you get that job and help you get exactly what you're looking for. And you can see what I mean when I say optimize. Go ahead and look at my own LinkedIn if you'd like to. You'll see as soon as you get on it, it's very optimized for exactly what I'm going for. But that's where we optimize it for what you need. And that's why I'm excited to come here and talk about this tonight, because this is something I've studied. I've studied the algorithm. I've studied how to do SEO on LinkedIn. I've studied how to actually get content to go not necessarily just viral, but how to get content to actually get consistently thousands of views over and over and over. Now, that's a bit. I believe that answers your question, Dodge. Where would you like?
Yeah. No, that definitely does. There's a couple of things that jumped out there. I'm wondering if you could speak to, because you talked about how you were one of the worst students or one of the worst programmers in this course, in this program that you're talking about, and the importance of mentorship there. I know we've probably gotten a chance to talk a little bit about the importance of mentorship when you're actually learning some of those skills that you need to break into the field. I'm wondering if you could talk about how important it is to have somebody in that kind of mentoring role beyond just those skills. So with some of these career pieces that we're talking about, and I'm wondering, did you have not only a mentor as you're learning some of these languages and frameworks, but did you have somebody who was kind of helping coach you in the right direction with some of these career first steps, with some of like the LinkedIn, some of the portfolio pieces that we're talking about?
Yeah, great question. Yes, and I totally did. And this is where sometimes people get this notion of you only have one mentor, one coach. And yeah, in the story, I just started out with one who really kicked it all off. But what he showed me was I need to have mentors who had been to where I wanted to be. And so prime example, I went and got a mentor like John Sonmez for a couple of years to help me figure out the programming aspects of my career. I got other mentors that actually helped me with understanding marketing, that helped me understand LinkedIn, that actually helped me understand open source code. I probably have up to 10 mentors I could call ASAP that helped me in a lot of different areas, even real estate investing, which I got into because I was intrigued in that. And that's something that I hope you guys can all take away from tonight, is knowing that if there's something you want, trying to forge your own path sometimes, no, not sometimes, it is the hardest thing to do, is forge your own path on your own with no help, whatever, whatsoever. One of the best things you can do is someone who's been there before. Work with them to see how you can replicate their results, or see what they did, because it's normally not exactly how they did it, right? Things change over time, but the process is what's really key to learn. And what I'd say I've learned over time from all these different mentors, it's the process to figure out how to be the best on LinkedIn. It's the process how to invest in real estate. It's the process on how to actually code, because coding changes every day. And so, yeah, I have mentors in every area that I need it. Some do overlap. Some can do, career services and programming. Some can do LinkedIn and, SEO, but they don't always overchange, but sometimes they do. And that's where, if you find a real unicorn, it's very helpful.
Yeah. Very cool. No, yeah, that was just kind of a point that I had been wondering about, especially as part of kind of that overall introduction piece there. Yeah, very cool. So I guess on that note, as we're starting to think about some of the importance of mentoring, and that just really quick, one last thought too on that last point is kind of very closely tied with what I like to tell people, right? It's that other people have learned how to use these, whatever it is, have used LinkedIn, have learned these programming languages, know the best practices in the space. So take advantage of that, right? There's a huge amount of collective knowledge out there. And to that point that you were saying, there's no need to just try to invent it all from scratch on your own, right? Take advantage of these resources. Yeah. Stand on the shoulders of the work that some of these other people have done.
Oh yeah.
Awesome. So I guess with that, I want to kind of start today and jump really headfirst into some of the pieces that we're going to be talking about. So I guess we'll start to stand on the shoulders of some of your expertise here today. And I think a good place to start, before we even go into what to do with our LinkedIn, what to do with our portfolio piece, is to understand some foundation about what we're building towards, right? We can't know what to put on our LinkedIn, what projects to build for our portfolio, without understanding what job we want to get after that, right? So I guess how can we figure out how to narrow down the field from all of the available options of careers or all of the available job postings out there to some ones that we actually want?
That is a good question, and I think is the absolute perfect place for us to start, because the question I get all the time, and probably a lot of you out there have it right now, and let me know in the chat if you do, what do the companies want? Or what should I be doing? What skills should I be learning? What is the next thing I should go do a Udemy course on? Do you guys ever have that similar question? Is that something you question? Because I know me and Dodge have all the time, like, what is it that we should be doing? Like, what do the companies want? Well, that's kind of how we're going to answer this first question. And we're going to look at this with what I call the 4-step marketing analysis. And it is really useful to answer that question right there, because people come to me all the time and ask this. And every time I'm like, I have no idea what your area wants. I have no idea where you live, because up here in Boston, there's a lot of JavaScript. There's also a lot of data structure or data science up here, right? There's a lot of things going on here, but I know back in Dallas, where I came from, there's a lot of .NET going on there. At the same time in Atlanta, a lot of React and a lot of Angular. So like things change everywhere you go. And if we're not truly looking at the market, if we're not truly understanding what these companies want out of us or even what jobs we want, filling out our LinkedIn, well, we're going to be shooting darts with our eyes covered and just hoping we hit bullseye, even though we know we're more than likely not going to hit
the board at all.
Yeah. So yeah. Let me share my screen now, and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. And one of the things I think you guys will come to appreciate tonight. Oh, that's right. I'm looking around like, where's the share screen? Oh, it's up there.
On the bank of monitors as a tech professional, all of a sudden, yeah, where is this one at?
One of the things that I think you guys will come to appreciate from our session tonight, and Dodge knows this already because I'm specific. I want to give you actionable things to do. I don't want to just fluff you up and tell you, oh yeah, you want to know the best secret, all this, or like some Tai Lopez ad. I was laughing at those things my whole life ever since they started coming out. I want to be specific. I don't want to be like that. I want to be specific. So at any point tonight, if you don't feel like you're getting the specific out of me, feel free to ask a question. But I know right now we're going to be ultra specific on what you need to do to figure this out, because I want to show you through data exactly how you answer those questions.
And one quick note just on that question piece. I think I forgot to mention it at the top, but we are going to make sure that we carve out about 15 to 20 minutes at the end of our session for some open floor Q&A. So if you do have a question on any of the pieces directly about what we're talking about, we're happy to dig into that here. If it is kind of a larger question in scope or in scale, we might end up getting to that in the open floor Q&A. So in case you've posted a question and we're not talking about it just yet, don't worry, we will get there. But if it's that kind of more open-ended one, we may save it for our open floor Q&A piece. Sorry, Jason, just wanted to make sure everybody out there knows that we are not ignoring any questions out there.
So let's get started with this. First step. Now, as I get started with this, I want to warn you. This is so simple, you're going to wonder why you didn't think about it or why you didn't come up with this yourself. And don't feel worried about that at all. It's something I learned from actually teaching data science for Thinkful. I started thinking about things differently and in a more analytical way, because I'm not always as analytical as Dodge, but this just made sense to, well, how can I break this down really simple? And it starts with finding, first thing you got to do in the 4 steps is find 10 jobs you want right now. And so I'm going to tell you, you literally go on to LinkedIn or Indeed or Monster, you pick somewhere and you start looking for the 10 jobs you want. Part of why I leave that open-ended in what you want is because I want you to go pick something that you would be excited to apply for. Something that's like, this sounds perfect. Their description's everything I want. Because if you read a job description that isn't, what happens is when we break it down here in a minute, you'll learn that naturally by the 10 things you pick, it'll show you where you should focus. Because we might not realize the underlying, just by reading a job description, we might not understand what are they truly asking for until we break it down a job description. And so find the 10 that you want. And want, well, it could be that they talk about JavaScript, that's what you want. It could be they talk about an open communicating team. It could be talking about remote. It really tends to be what excites you. And I don't know what excites you. What excites you is a natural thing, a natural feeling. That's what I'm looking for, right?
And I think one question that I want to jump in here is are we just searching just on kind of titles alone? Is like we want this one title, so that's what we're searching for? Or should we really be digging into those descriptions to find out what that company expects out of the work that we would be doing?
Descriptions. You should really be jumping into what they are physically saying. Titles don't really make you in your career. Titles don't really help you be happy. Like, that's great, I got a great title, but that's not what's going to make you happy in the end of the day. And
there's still some gray area out there, at least, maybe you can definitely speak more to the software engineering, the web dev side, but on the data science side, right, between senior data analyst, data scientist, software, machine learning engineer, right, titles are a little bit gray area, transferable, right? The companies are still figuring out exactly what to call what they need for that.
Yeah. And that's exactly what you're going to find, because you'll find software engineer, web developer, UX engineer. Like, you'll find all these crazy things to say the same thing. It's more about what you're doing in the job description is what we want. But you can start by searching, if you know you want to be in JavaScript, you can start by searching keywords. But in general, like, we got to read the job description. Now, this entire market analysis will take you anywhere from 1.5 hours to 3 hours, and you'll see why with the upcoming steps. Part of this first step is you have to do the research. You have to probably look at 100 jobs to pick your 10. If you're only looking at 10 jobs, picking 10 jobs, right? Have you really looked through your marketplace? Have you really understood what your market is asking? Step 2, did I answer that? That was good? All right.
Yeah, definitely.
So the second thing, once you found your 10, we have to go then break down the job description for soft skills and job specifics. Some would also say hard skills and soft skills, but we have to break it down for those 2 things. And I mean, literally, I want you to go in there and highlight every soft skill you see, every job specific you see. And a job specific could be JavaScript, could be writing and estimating tickets. It could be another language. It could be a process. It could be a lot of different things in development, but it's a specific action you have to take. The soft skills are much more like team player, passionate, some of the things like that. It's a soft skill. It's the intangible aspects of the job that they need you to have. Once we have that and we broke down that, and I mean, legitimately, it's going to be colored. Actually, I can show you I'll show Liberty. I have a Liberty Mutual example that I tend to show people. I'll bring that on the screen now. And it legitimately goes like this. They put a lot of fluff in the first part, a lot of not always enough soft skills, but you see coming down, there's a lot of specifics on what they want, build backend APIs, write technical proposals, collaborate. You see, when you actually look at this from a color perspective, this actual job description is pretty even on the fact they go back and forth between specifics and soft skills pretty fairly. There's some jobs that I've done in the past to break down for people, and it's all just soft skills or it's all just job specifics. And that's not to say that's good or bad. It's always intriguing to see kind of what type of role is it really. And so this is what I'm talking about. You physically go color it because this is going to help you break it down. And so when I'm also then saying in this next step is we need you to break it down further. And so I broke it down by actually cutting all the parts out, putting it word by word here so that it's easier for us to look at it and see it. But that's not just it. So once we source that information, we need you to place it into Airtables so we can analyze the results. And I'm going to show you what I mean by putting it into Airtables right now.
And really quick, before we jump into Airtable, Leah has a question here on those soft skills and those job specifics. Is there a number that you have in mind for those hard and soft skills that you're looking for? Or maybe if there's not a specific number, is there a kind of any like red flags that are raised, maybe just building off of Leah's question, any red flags about one or the other being very lacking?
No, we're looking for as many as we can find because in this next step, Leah, you'll see exactly why. But I would say red flag. I also teach people to do this for interviews because when we look at a job description like this and we break it down, I can tell you all the questions people are going to go ask you in an interview now. A potential red flag here that I might look for in a specific interview is that they have only soft skills or they only have job descriptions or job specifics. Within doing this analysis for the general market and understanding what the market wants, I'm all ears to what they have to say. There is no good, there is no bad. Let's see what the market's saying. And you can add more than 10, by the way. It's not even just 10 of these job descriptions. You can do 100 of them. The more data, the better you will get your results. But we start with 10 because I know it takes longer. But going back to is it bad? No. In the job description, in this market analysis we're doing, no. But from an interview perspective, could be seen as bad. Could be seen if they're just all soft skills and there are no specifics, right? What is the job then, right? What do they actually want to do? Is there a goal? Like, is there a start and a finish to their project or whatever they're working on?
Yeah, maybe that company doesn't have a clear outlined idea of what responsibilities you're even going to be working on, maybe. And so that's something that to a little caution flag to look out for.
Yep. All right, so moving on to Airtables.
Great question, yeah.
All right, on to Airtables. So this is the part where now we analyze the data, and this is where things make a little bit more sense, but not even this slide. I'm going to show you the next slide, which really makes more sense. But this is where I want you to physically use something like this. This is Excel in the cloud, and I can send you guys a link to join up if you'd like with it. I have an entire video that I think Dodge can put through. I think we might have maybe already put it in the sheet. I have an entire YouTube video with the link to this more in depth if you want to really see it, or see more on it. But this screen right here is Excel in the cloud, and what you see is I put above all the companies potentially that I did for the job description for. And on the left-hand side, you saw the job specifics and the soft skills. I just placed them all down. If I see node once, I just go through and check it for the next time. I'm using check boxes here to keep track of it. And at this point, it's like, okay, this doesn't really help, but I can already see what is most important, right? I see it across the top, but that's neither here nor there for the moment because this is just one slide. But this is where things get interesting because you can go to the end and say total up all of these columns and sort it. And what you see now, go ahead, Dodge.
No, I was going to say, this is all of a sudden, this is like where, that last one was kind of like a lot to digest, but this is like, bam.
Exactly. And so now we come in here and go, all right, so 6 through 10, I like to tell people, that's why we have it 6 to 10. If there's 6 to 10 out of the 10 you have, basically 60 to 100% here are in there. These are skills you absolutely have to know and have to put in your LinkedIn or in your resume. These are skills that have to be somewhere. You have to know them and you have to promote them because this is what your market is telling you is an absolute must. Because it's the majority of the market, right? We've crossed over into 6. It's not half anymore. It's 6 and up. So half the market wants this, which tells me if we do another 100 of these jobs That's 60 out of that's a lot of jobs wanting this specific skills right here. And we could scroll back and forth and see all the companies, but really this total matters most. Now, with this total of 6 to 10, a lot of people realize that, okay, I kind of knew that. And that's fair. But let me show you the next slide, which is where your questions get answered. And that's that 4 to 6 range, this 40 to 60% range. This is where that middle of the market is. This is where potentially you'll see things going. Like if you ever want to watch the swing of how your market changes, do this once a month and keep it dated and start looking at how React's moving up or how Angular's moving up or how some of these specific tech skills are moving up the chart. But in this 4 to 6 range, this is where you want to learn your next skill. This is it. You want to put something new on your resume or get more attention, more employers, it's right here. And you see like on mine, 18 was React. Oh, well, I should go learn React if I don't know it. At the same time, taking direction. Now you see I simplified some of these, but like 13 was a soft skill, being able to take direction and being productive. But these are the sweet spot of where this answers a lot of questions of things we have to go do that we might not have on there. With more data comes more clarity. So in this example that I'm giving you, right, I don't have 500 soft skills on here. But if you go do this for more than 10 jobs, you're going to see a lot of clarity in the sense of what really sticks out to my marketplace. Because nothing I can say whenever I get those questions of what should I learn next or what should I put on my LinkedIn, I can't answer for your market because every market's different. Every part of the United States is different. It's knowing what your market and the jobs you want really enlighten this with the data we have. What are your thoughts on this so far, Dodge? I think you like it.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan. And one of the things that strikes me about this piece is not only being able to use this as a direction for, hey, what other Udemy course should I take? What other kind of other piece do I want to go out and learn like React or like Angular? But also with those soft skills, I imagine this provides a good amount of clarity with those too. Because to me, when I'm talking with folks, that's something that there's a lot of anxiety around, a lot of ambiguousness is, well, how do I even talk about which soft skills or what ones are important? With something like this, you don't have to go out and learn a new soft skill about taking direction. But maybe what you can do is know if this is important. All right, well, this is an example that I can make sure that I have from my past experience, a good time when I use this soft skill. So I can have this handful of important ones to talk about. And maybe that takes away some of that anxiety about all of these other soft skills too.
You got it.
Dang, yeah, that's awesome. That's a pretty sweet tool there. So we do have a couple follow-ups to some of those in the Q&A piece there. And I know that we will be getting to some of the LinkedIn specific ones, but I'll pick out a couple just from there. So Eric was asking, what percentage of the skills that they're asking should we meet before we apply for a position?
There's those studies.
Sorry to put you on the spot there, but yeah.
Before you apply. So this is one where you've probably heard the studies where men will apply for anything that they apply to like 30 or 40% of the job for. If they apply to 30 or 40% of the skills, they apply, and women won't apply unless it's like they have 80%. And so I know those studies have been in the news a lot lately about application. And I find that the middle of that is the sweet spot of around 50 to 60%. Here's why. And let me tell you a story on two. In general, throw that out the window and just apply. Just give it a shot. And maybe that's the male in me that's just like, just give it a shot. Who gives a crap? But I realize that can shoot people's confidence, so you don't have to listen to that. But anywhere around that 60% mark, and there is a story why. I am also a hiring manager. So I've hired, I think, 8 people last year alone. And when I was hiring them, one of the things that came up was I was looking for I was looking for 2 roles. I was looking for, say, and I'm going to use the screen as like a gauge. I was looking for 2 mid-level people, 2 people that were, been in coding a couple of years, pretty good developers, but just they're not seniors yet. They're not super self-sufficient, but they're good. And I needed that because I needed some people to pump out some work. I needed some people to new CSS.
Mm-hmm.
And what I found is I couldn't find good mid-level people in my market. And that's okay, not a big deal, because all the mid-level people in my market wanted to be seniors. They didn't want to go take another mid-level job. And all the associates, the people down at the bottom, the juniors, were trying to get to the mid-level, but they just weren't there yet. They were not true mid-levels. They didn't have this 2 to 3 years experience. So I wasn't finding anything. Mm-hmm. And so all those people who applied, even the juniors, here's why. They applied. They didn't have all the skills. They didn't have everything I needed. But what I did was I was like, okay, I can't find any mid-level. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop one rec and put the other one to senior. So the senior can mentor the junior. And so I went and found my senior. Great. Got that done. But now I reuse the same applications from the mid-level for my associate level, for my junior level role. And so I just went right back to those resumes. I didn't even reopen another rec. I just went, hey, I've got all these 200 resumes. Let me go through these now. Oh, okay. And I actually found the person I hired out of that. So it's not to say that just because you don't have the skills, it's not a problem. It just might be another opportunity that might open itself up. If you have 60% of the skills needed, if you have 60% of what they're asking, apply, because you never know what's going to happen, right? I would have never imagined I would have never imagined being a junior dev knowing that type of stuff happens all the time where, that didn't work, let me just change the role level, let me just move this around. Like, I'm looking for the right people on my team. I don't care the role. And if I end up going down to pick an associate and I already have good resumes, I don't care if they didn't apply to the job before. I'm going to reuse them and see, is there a good person there?
That's awesome. Yeah. There's so much of that goes on that I think a lot of people don't get to see. So getting to share kind of that peek behind the curtain, super, super valuable there. One last one kind of on a follow-up in a similar vein for that. Mm-hmm. And I think this will actually be probably a nice transition into our LinkedIn piece of the conversation. But we have a question here. Job description listings are pretty binary. At what point can we claim to be proficient on a skill on LinkedIn / for our resume? So if we're talking about just kind of going back to our React example there, if somebody wants you to be proficient in React, and we're thinking about that as not proficient and proficient on that binary scale, when do we mark yes? When are we that one for that piece?
There's two ways to look at this. There's two ways to look at proficiency. Proficiency in the sense of we're going to look at it in the interview, and proficiency in the sense of applying. When we talk about applying, proficiency to me here is you can take an idea. I can tell you to go make me the to-do app, right? The notorious to-do app everyone tries to do. You can go make the to-do app on the spot. Now, I'm not saying you're perfect. I'm not saying you can't Google, but you can take that idea building a to-do app and implement it and not worry, oh, crap, am I doing the right components? Do I have the right styles? Oh, did I format this correctly? Like, you don't worry about that stuff. You just go build it and you do it to the best of your ability, and it comes out working. Regardless if it's perfect or not, it's working, and you can do it and you can build it.
You can build some minimum viable product with that thing.
Yes.
Cool.
And so that's the being able to build it on the spot. Now, let's take it from the interview perspective, proficient. Proficient from you having to go in and do the interview, you need to be able to proficiently take questions will be smaller, right? In my previous example, I'm saying the whole to-do app. Mm-hmm. But in an interview, things are going to get a lot smaller. So proficiency in an interview is going to look much more like a Code Wars problem, a leak code problem, something that is anywhere from 10 to 30 minutes of a challenge that you can take on and do. As long as you can get it done, that's what matters. Most interviews will let you Google, so it's not the end of the world if you have to Google. But being able to take a problem you've never seen before and not go Google a solution and actually implement a solution that works consistently, that's what I will see as proficiency. Because in an interview, they're going to pull you in and ask you, hey, can you solve this north, south, east, west problem in React? Great. Do it. And you get 30 minutes. And that's, to me, that is what proficiency is. But as you see here, I'm saying both sides, though, from applying to actually going in the interview. Now, there are two different ones because you can apply a bunch before you go in. Mm-hmm. And so if you are proficient there and every day you're going to get better to where you get to that proficient stage here, do not wait until you're proficient for an interview. get proficient first so you can apply. And then as you're applying, keep practicing so you're proficient to go into an interview.
Mm-hmm. And because that application process does, I mean, it'll depend from company to company, but it does take a good amount of time usually. Some companies are much faster than others, but yeah, you can start to feel like you can get more confident in that skill over that period of time as that process is, where you're going through that kind of initial phone screen and then more of the practical and kind of moving through that process. Awesome. So yeah, I guess kind of on that skills on LinkedIn and resume piece, let's jump into LinkedIn a little bit more. So for our LinkedIn side, right, we've built this foundation here. We've found those 10 jobs that we actually want, right? We've done that Airtable analysis. We see which skills are really important, and we have more focus heading into the job search. We know that LinkedIn is a really important piece of that, and making sure that your LinkedIn profile is spot on is hugely, hugely important. So I'll turn it over to you a little bit, talk about the importance of LinkedIn as that job search tool, and then we'll jump right into some of the ways that we want to think about making our LinkedIn the best that it can be.
So I've got, and feel free to stop me, I'll share my screen. Dodge, my LinkedIn was, long story short, I'm going to use part of the deck for this because I was having issues.
Yeah, that's perfect.
So I'll use part of the deck because it's a good fallback. Because it at least has pictures on there. So I want to start this off as we start talking about LinkedIn, because you're spot on. It's huge. I hear people all the time, the capabilities of LinkedIn is massive. Mm-hmm. I hear people bashing all the time on YouTube, and I'm an avid YouTube watcher. Like, this is what I do. Like, if I'm coding, I got a YouTube video on just because I can multitask like that. Mm-hmm. Like, it's one of those things also I drown out, like, so I can focus, and I drown out YouTube. And I love watching the coding community, but one of the things I find in the code community is a lot of people that aren't career service oriented or don't help people get jobs think LinkedIn is crap. And I'm here to tell you, I'm sorry to all those YouTubers out there who are big and famous, smash LinkedIn. You're wrong. And I can show you how to get a job on LinkedIn real quick. Because where do you think the recruiters go to find people? Where is the most centrally known place in the United States? LinkedIn. And so it's a great thing if you learn how to optimize. And there's so much more besides just optimizing. There's understanding the algorithm. There's actually creating content. There's a lot of other pieces. But the first and foremost, most important piece is optimizing your actual profile. So when people search for you, they'll find you. Specifically, when recruiters search for you, they'll find you. So we have to start. And if you've ever heard me talk before or ever seen any of my courses, you know all too well, I really push on you have to know your audience, especially for LinkedIn. Well, what did we just do? We just did the job market analysis. In this slide, I call it job market, but it's the market analysis we were just doing. Second, knowing your audience from LinkedIn perspective is also knowing what your resume says. Because even though we're saying the audience is them, they're looking at your resume. So let's see, what are we saying on our resume? Because it's going to be very important to them. Something else we can do when we know our audience, besides those two things, is like a Google Trends. This is a quick touch point that I've found is really intriguing when you're just trying to focus. Like, maybe you've been out of the job search for a couple of years. I imagine some of you tonight have been out of it, and maybe you're looking to get back into it. Maybe you're career changing into Thinkful and taking a boot camp. And you've been out. One of the things that's always intriguing is to look at the Google Trends and see, what is it? Is it Python? Is it JavaScript? Like, can you search for some of these soft skills? Can you look at Google Trends and see what you're seeing? I think it's an interesting way. Another one is to do a word cloud on your on all of your job descriptions. So it's much like the job market analysis, but it's a different way to look at it to see if you can understand something else. But a
couple pieces that supplement that analysis, right? That really strengthen it, give you a little bit of that extra context, a little bit of that extra confidence in that analysis piece.
Yeah, I totally agree. So
awesome.
Let's get into LinkedIn parts. LinkedIn Premium, is it worth it? Right? I wonder how many people have this question. Is it worth it? I go both ways on this. I see where if the profile is not fully optimized, then no. If you aren't fully going all all in on a LinkedIn optimization and like trying to get a job through it, like, no, not worth it. But if you're looking to show up in more searches, if you're looking to get a little extra analysis, if you're looking to get some favorability, then this is definitely it. This is one thing where you get 1 month free. So if you're going to start a job hunt, I'd probably start this 2 months or 3 months into the job hunt and flick it on then, and maybe do 1 or 2 months with it. I purposely didn't do it for a while to watch my data, and I didn't change any of my posting strategies at that point. And I instantly went up 100 to 200 more views per month, and I didn't do anything different.
Damn.
So 100 to 200 more views per month, and if you're doing extra content, you're doing extra things and strategies, that only amplifies. I purposely, in my little tests, I didn't change a dang thing. I put content out every other week at that point, and I went. A little
mini A/B test here for the
Exactly, and you know what? It was just fascinating to see it. But ultimately, for majority of us tonight, since we haven't implemented these changes, it is not time to do it. It is not the right thing to do right away. But moving on.
But something to keep our eye on down the line there.
Definitely.
Cool.
It definitely is. Something else I want to keep your eye on is to make sure you do the profile strength. What I found actually studying their algorithm, this actually plays a part into their algorithm. This is a little like viewing glass into the algorithm where are you strength, is your profile strong enough to recommend to people? Because this is an indicator if it is or isn't. And so I encourage you to get out of that intermediate state and to do everything they ask. I won't go through all of them now, but do it.
We'll talk about some of those different pieces too, as we'll weave some of those in as we go throughout our conversation.
They will be weaved in, but in general, just follow that before I go into all their steps. One thing that I want to make clear is update your profile with your resume. In this picture, I put just the top of one of my resumes. It's a template, but just to point out, go update your resume. Has to be nearly spot on to your LinkedIn in the sense of your experiences. Should be saying the same thing. Now, not necessarily your summary, but your LinkedIn experiences down below should tout the same things and not be completely different or out of date one way or the other. I think that goes into what I say I cannot have here, which is the mismatches. You can't have old data. You can't have broken links here. When you're porting stuff over from your profile, common mistake is broken links. And I can't stand it, but it is common. And misspelled words, and it's like, come on, this is not.
These are some of our foundational pieces. These are the going back to kind of that binary idea of skills. We've got some binary can and cannot do, and this is the zeros. We got to get rid of these.
All right, so let's get in some other things here we can be doing. So something fun that most people don't know, if you've ever tried to update your resume in LinkedIn or your profile, your experiences, you've learned you can't put your bullet points. Oh, but on the contrary, you can. You just have to know how to do it in LinkedIn. And most people do not. So how do you think you stand out? Relatively easy with a subtle little extra help? Well, you use symbols. You can use there's more than this. I took a picture of this, but you can use the arrows. You can use the flags, the recycle. There's way more symbols. I'll drop a link in after this since I'm presenting right now. I can't easily get it over to you guys, but I'll drop a link into the symbols. But it's a subtle way we can actually go over and look at Meet Jason, and I'll show you what I mean. Like, it is this easy to come into your experiences and put the bullet points, because when someone wants to read more about your experiences, they're going to hit show more, and now it looks just like your resume looks. Now, granted, you have to use LinkedIn's approved symbols, and there's a post on it that I'll get to you guys, but it looks way better than just a blob of text.
Much better. Yeah. You've got me second guessing mine over here now too.
All right, so settings. We're going to cover a couple of these. I realize that I can't show them all live because between trying to load the site and this is what I was realizing, Dodge, between trying to share my screen, be on a web streaming platform, and doing the LinkedIn stuff and trying to move all the settings, it just goes too slow.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna stick to some pictures. But some of the things we have to do within settings is make sure your profile is set to public for everyone. People forget this all the time. And even if you want to put, I'll continue on before I go into my email spiel. Also, select job seeking, so recruiters know you're open to jobs and career interests. You'll see a picture here in a bit. Also, we need to update our geography because things will change by who you get recommended to by what area you're in, right? So when I moved from Dallas, I moved to Dallas to Boston about 2 years ago, and my networks completely changed. My recommendations completely changed, night and day different because of the area I was. So you got to set your location and set your commute preference, especially if you want recruiters to look at you. Within updating our settings, we need you to go update your industry, your look, your profile, and your dashboard from a privacy perspective. We need people to be able to find you. We need the industry to be able to see you, and we need your profile. And one of the other aspects to add, and this is in the account settings, inside settings and privacy. Something else is that career interest I was talking about. Here is the actual picture. There is in your settings, there is just a straight up, hey, here's your career interest. Turn it on. Let recruiters know you're open.
And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but part of that piece is also part of LinkedIn's like profile strength that they walk you through that we were talking about earlier, I believe.
Awesome. That it is. Now we can, in this career interest section, we can go even more in depth. All right. We can really give them a lot of other information here of, how open are you? Do you want to get contacted by phone? Do you want, and here's where my email/phone spiel will come in. Within your LinkedIn, I'm going to recommend you put a public phone number and a public email out there. And I already know it. Someone's on the other side listening to me going, hell no, Jason. Never will I ever do that. And to that I say, fine. But what I'm going to ask you to do is this. Go, you got one of these things, right? You got a cell phone?
Got a rectangle.
Got a rectangle. Go get a Google Voice number and sign up with it. It's free, and they give you a unique number that you can block people on, that you can decline call. You can do whatever you want there. People don't know where it's at, right? So go get a Google Voice number and then go create a new Gmail with your name, all right? And that's free too. So go basically and actually, you know what? Make a Gmail with your name that's very professional, that only does these interviews or only does this information. For one, you'll know where the people come from, all of your LinkedIn. But two, then you can use that new Gmail to sign up for Google Voice, and you can put your number in here, and you can make your email public. And you don't have to worry about spam email going to somewhere where it's all your personal stuff. Completely separate. So,
nice.
As I say, if you say no to me, I say yes to you.
Yeah. No, and that's perfect, because I know that question out there, on the data side too, one of my initial instincts is going, there is that kind of, pump the brakes about putting too much info out there. But yeah, these are great tools to take advantage of.
So we add in this, we do our industry, we set this up, career interest. This only helps from a searching perspective for recruiters. Recruiters have a whole different portal. I'm not going to be able to get into their portal tonight, but if you could see their portal, like their search filter, it can search on any of these things. And the more specific you are, the more likely you will show up in a search. And that's what we're getting to. When we talk about updating privacy a little bit more, I'm going to show you a picture. This one's a bit easier to update. I like this one. I'm just going to go through these because there's a picture after this. I want you to go update your edit visibility. It seems so simple, but it gets turned off more often than not. And that's generally by default. But you want everything to be public, because as much as people are I get not making your Facebook public. I'm all fine with that. But that's not what this is for. This is to help get you a job with anyone looking to hire you. Yeah, you're going to get some crap in your message box. Great. Report them as abuse and let them go. But making it visible to everybody with everything allows anyone to come look at your information. They don't have to request you. They can just come do a quick look and move on with their day. And if they like you, they're going to keep going. We already kind of talked about this, but updating your contact information, there's actually a specific section on your profile. When you say, there's a contact spot, you can hit edit. It'll pop up this little mode, will tell you your name and say, do you want to update these 4 things? And you go, well, yes. Yes, I do. I want to update my email, my cell, my website, and my GitHub.
Nice. Yeah. And so that one quick question there, just while we said it, I know somebody in the Q&A had asked, should we put our GitHub account info on LinkedIn?
Yes.
That was a question from Jeremy there. So we can answer that definitively here.
I don't know in tonight's, if I put it in tonight's deck, because this is a deck from one of my courses, or this is part of the deck from one of my courses. I don't know if I copied over the call to action page. But one of the big things to Jeremy's point or question here, or to answer it, is, yeah, you want call to action. That's part of why I want you to update like a lot of this, even though I might not say it, like there's a lot of things going on here with what I'm having you do, because call to actions are big. I get frustrated when I come to, like, I get a resume. It says their LinkedIn on it. It doesn't say their GitHub on it, but it might say their LinkedIn, or maybe I forget that. I look at their resume, it doesn't have any links. And so I just search their name, I find their LinkedIn, and I still can't get to their GitHub, because more often than not, people don't use names on GitHubs. They use aliases, which is fine. But in your LinkedIn, if I don't have a link back to your GitHub, or you don't promote any media with your GitHub, how the hell am I ever going to find your GitHub to look at code to validate you?
Yeah.
So yes, add your GitHub.
Definitely.
Let's see here. Any other questions on that?
I was trying to go through some of those. For some of those LinkedIn specific ones, I think we'll be able to get to those, I think, during the course of some of these other points that we'll talk about. And if we do have specific call out ones like that, I'll try to make sure that we're including it, just like that there.
So we also have to go and update the intro. And this one's is like simple. It's like, yeah, I get that. But I encourage you to do it. I have a couple things on headline and summary I'll talk about here in a little bit. But just make sure everything's filled out. And you can hit the check show education in your intro if you really want to. If you're applying for a job, and most developer jobs do want you to, if you have it, check it. If you do not have the education needed, uncheck it, because it's not an end-all be-all for the coding industry to have a degree. But if you show your education is only high school, or show your education is something that isn't actually what you want, just turn that off and don't bother showing it. Make them scroll down to see it, to understand.
Mm-hmm. You're controlling more of the narrative then, right?
Yes, it's exactly you. And I think that's a spot on, Dodge. You are controlling the narrative. And this goes to the part where I have a lot of things here that we're doing that I'm trying to focus all in an hour. But there's a lot of backstory here to, like, you were right. This is the narrative. You own this narrative, and this is your story. Once you understand the audience, you control the narrative for them. And that's what we're doing here.
Awesome.
So next thing I had up here is images. You have to have a background image and a good professional photo. Now, I made this one on the spot for you. Like, this is one I made on the spot before, just to show you, like, it's super easy to even just go put Jason Humford Coding Career Fastlane.
Yeah.
Super easy. And we got to make sure we have the profile and the background. When we talk about a profile headshot, let me give you some tips on this to actually go do. And knowing that I don't want to sit here and talk about this forever, I'll go through this quicker, but I'll let you know.
I was going to say this is good because we have 2 questions in our Q&A about the headshot and about the background photo. So this is perfect.
Hit me. What's the profile? I'll see if I get into it.
Oh, I'm sure that we do. Any tips for LinkedIn profile / banner photography style? Yep. Anything to stay away from? And then immediately after that, any suggestions on profile photo? Should it be 100% professional looking? So I'm sure both of those we're about to get into here.
Yes. So to answer the question, but even before I get started on this, there is scenarios. I think I pulled the scenario slide out because I didn't think it was relevant. But since you asked, we'll pull the content in. There are scenarios when you don't have to be professional, right? If you are going for a startup that's in Florida that chills out on the certain scenarios will change. So if you're going for a startup, you can have a more lax picture. If you're going for a sports team, maybe you can have something with sports involved, or you want to work for a professional sports team. Great. There are scenarios where that will change. 95% of the time, you should have a professional photo. Let me show you exactly what I mean from what you should do for professional photos. For one, have a nice background or backdrop. Backdrops, safe way to go. Backgrounds, like a beach theme or a office theme, like those can add a little extra flair. You can be a little more, art.
Show a little bit more, personality.
Creative.
Yeah.
But you have to have only you in it. I hate those dual pictures where you clearly just cut somebody off. No, don't even just try to crop somebody off. Do it. We all have these smartphones now, or your friends do, and it has good megapixels on it, guaranteed. Yeah. All right. Go take it. Go get bokeh filter on the iPhone and use that. Done deal. Have it in color, not black and white. With your eyes, specifically, you should be at 2/3. Your eyes should be at 2/3 of the photo, or right around that range. You see how in mine, I'm not at half. I'm at 2/3 with my eyes. That gives me opportunity to have my shoulders, and it has my chest in a little bit. So it's a person. It's not just physically a straight up headshot looking at you. It's a little more personable. It's done better in testing this way. You should also be looking off or at the camera when you're doing one. So like looking right at the camera works. But what I found is a lot more people are comfortable with this. And much like, actually, this is a professional photo shoot I did for Thinkful a couple of years back. They really wanted me to look off screen, but I liked the outcome. I thought it was great. You can look at that previous photo I had for the previous professional one I had. That was, I think I was looking at the camera. Both ways work. It's your preferential treatment. I do think this photo looks good. We do want the appearance to be professional. Now with this attire I have on, this was the photographer who wanted that, so I went with it, but it was still professional. It was trendy according to them. You won't ever see me wearing that again, but like it was professional. So whether it's a collared shirt, whether it's a dress, whatever it might be, something that looks professional and you would go out to a nice restaurant with. Positioning, slightly center yourself in frame or slightly turn in frame while you're looking that way. You can also slightly turn and look forward if you want. You can mix and match there. Another one, lighting, half on, half off. This is absolutely key to getting a super professional photo. And yeah, you can still do this with your phone. It's just where do you stand and how do you look, right? Because if you know you have one light above you, you know if you stand to this side, it will make one side dark. So you can use the lighting to your advantage, but it's that field of depth. That's why photographers do. That's why in this professional photo, you see on the left side of my face, dark, right side is light. It adds that depth of field to the eye. It looks more appealing to the human. I believe that answers all questions on that.
I think, yeah. No, I think that's all of those are tremendously helpful and ones that I wonder about too. Like I'm looking at mine and I think I check a couple of these things off of that box, but certainly some different pieces of it that can be improved on. No, this is great.
All right, so let's talk about background images, specifically with the background. And so this is my other one. So I made that first one just to show you guys. You can go create one real quickly. I'll show you how to create one rather quick like. But this is the one I have currently on my profile. I like it for what I'm trying to do with Coding Career Fastlane. I'm trying to help people, and that's where background images are a great way to sell what you want to sell. In my case, I am selling that I have a business to help people. Great. That's what I put on there. I put the 3 most common things people want. You see, I didn't overwhelm it with too many things going on. It's not too busy, because if it's too busy, they won't read it. If it's just subtle enough, 3 bullet points that stand out, they might give it a read, and all I need is for them to read 1. That's it. Now, when we're creating a background image, first, you want to have the background maybe a professional. Backgrounds can mean all different things. So in my case, you see, I went with just a subtle background to put the text on. It just kind of resembles a road almost. You see where I was going for there? I was going for branding. But there's other things that people can do. If you want to put a picture in the background and you want to you want your background to be like a workplace, you can use a professional setting. If you want your background to have a landscape, maybe downtown city landscape. If you want to be more your architecture focused, great. Drawing of a web application. Or if you want to be more about people, put a background up there with your team on it or a team. If you have a mission in life, maybe sustainable energy, great. Put that on there. If you have tools, maybe a code editor. Or if you really like your tools, a product, mobile app. Maybe you're doing focus work. You can use so many different pictures to convey different context to people. All right. And then you can put 3 different, let's say bullet points on there of whatever it is. You're a full stack developer. Maybe you're an engineer, a creator, whatever it is you want. Maybe it comes out of your job market analysis. Let me show you this real quickly, how to create one with Canva and keywords. Your portfolio site. I got to add those. So this is what I was saying. You can add the 3 keywords or 3 bullet points on there. You can also add a link to your portfolio if you want in that, a personal site, a GitHub. You can do a couple different things in this background, but remember, normally 3 is a good number, but just don't make it busy. Easy way to go create this. If you ever heard of canva.com, you can go here. You can say create a new design, LinkedIn banner. They give you some different templates. And that's what I did earlier. I just clicked one of the templates, typed my name in, typed some information. You see here, I made another image. Real quickly, I just threw in Jason Humphrey, leader, coach, full stack engineer. Simple enough.
Looks great. Yeah, looks simple, looks clean.
And then you can throw that right in the background image. And these are very much open to the interpretation of what you want people to perceive. If you are creating something and you want to see if people perceive it, go ask your family and friends and see, what do you get when you see this picture? Like, does this intrigue you? If you were looking for an engineer, if you were looking for somebody, does this background intrigue you a bit? Any questions on that, you think, Dodge?
No, that's perfect. We talked about some of those key points to do. I was wondering if you did have anything that came to mind, just 1 or 2 points about anything to stay away from for kind of the inverse of that, for either the profile photo and for this banner, for that or for the background one.
Yeah, if you're going to use it, stay away from doing useless stuff. Like, if you're going to optimize your profile and start putting a lot of changes into effect, just stay away from doing things like, if you've optimized everything else but not this, it's going to look out of character potentially, or it's going to look like it just doesn't fit in maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Or like, use it like it's meant to. Don't not use it appropriately. And then
you've been intentional with everything else. Why not be intentional with this piece of it too, right?
Correct. And I'd say the only other thing is busy. Just do not make it busy. Whatever you do not make it busy, because it can be the biggest turnoff for people as soon as they get to your page. If they see some crap on the background, it could be the quickest turn off, and we don't want that, right? We want something that's going to be like, oh, this looks very appealing. Let me keep on scrolling down. That's the reaction you want.
Mm-hmm. And maybe even if we're like erring on the side of caution of one of those, even if it doesn't immediately evoke, oh, I know this person does this specific thing, at the very least, it's not like, oh, this is too much, this is a turnoff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. I think that was the only kind of follow-up pieces that I had for those. And with those, again, pulling some of those from our Q&A queue as well.
Oh, yeah. So on to some other things we could be doing. Ordering your LinkedIn section. Years ago, fun fact, you used to be able to reorder your entire LinkedIn profile. It was kind of badass, kind of cool. You can no longer do that. All they allow you to do is to reorder your actual sections, like specifically your current positions. If you have multiple like I do, you can reorder them. You can also reorder your education. You can also reorder your volunteer experience and your skill endorsements. Now, current positions, most of us doesn't apply to. Education, most of us, if you have it, is just one college. Great. We don't really care. Volunteer experience, not overly useful always, unless you've done some really cool volunteer. Most people have not. Only a select few have done the stuff that really matters. But skill endorsement is pretty useful because they've really got it sectioned off great. I would say if you think about reordering any section, go into your skills section and reorder those. Go get endorsements. I don't know in this deck if I had that. I don't think I do. Make sure you're going to get skill endorsements and order them. So when people come to actually endorse you, they see the ones you want them to see. That you want them to see. So do that. Please. I'm just going to ask nicely. Please go create a custom URL and do one of these 2 formats. Do your name, and more than likely your name is going to be gone because there's 500 million people now on LinkedIn. So more likely your name will be gone. I wish we were all that unique, but our names are not. Our names aren't. But if not, and it's taken, do meet-your name and put that in the URL. So you see, like I had to do for mine's meet Jason Jason Humphrey because Jason Humphrey was taken, and that's fine. But please do this. It does really good with the search engines, and it does a hell of a lot better from a SEO perspective when you drop it on other sites. All right. And that way the link also is searchable back to you compared to in the past when it's just a random number. It's not really searchable in a website for you or in a document for you.
Yeah. And I think this is one of those ones that I made sure I have checked off. And I think I've had this one for quite some time, but it really is a pretty quick, easy fix. So this is one of those ones that just want to make sure that you have out of the way too.
Yep. You know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking real quickly that I don't think this, I'm going to say this now because I don't know why this popped in my head for everyone, but this, I don't think it made it into this deck. I think when I curated some of the stuff we had talked about Dodge, I don't think the slide made it in, so I'm just going to say it.
Yeah, hit me with it.
There is one more setting I don't think I covered that I don't know why it just reminded me, but it did. And the setting is other people had viewed. When you go into your profile and go to settings, you can turn off when other people view your profile. So hear me out in the sense of when you go to your profile, if like I go to yours right now, Dodge, let's do that. Let me show you what I mean.
We're doing it live.
Dodge. We're doing this live. So I have your Dodge. What a badass name, man. I got to give it to you.
Well, I lucked out that I did fall into that category of being able to just use my name for that URL. There's no other.
So we're going to incognito mode, right? So it's now in private, so I'm not logged in anymore, right? You all see this? The biggest no-no that people do, like much like you're at a car dealership, right? When you go to a car dealership, they don't try to sell you on the neighbor's cars down the road to go to. They want to keep you on their lot, looking at their cars, doing what they want. Do you see what is trying to drive people away from your profile right now?
People also viewed.
You can turn this off in your settings.
Really?
You leave it on by default. So I encourage you to go set it, change your settings. You can go into your settings. There's a lot of settings you're going to go change, so I'm not going to go in there right now and go try to pull it out. Because as you're going through all the settings after we get off tonight, you'll see this and you'll see a bunch of other ones. I don't think I covered this earlier. I feel like I didn't. So might as well if I did. Whoops. But anyway,
no, that's perfect. Yeah.
This is the prime example of I'm a recruiter. I'm coming to your page, Dodge. I've never met you before, but oh, well, he looks good. But oh, look at the CEO. Oh, look at the asset manager. Oh, look at Ian. Like they will now go to these people instead of looking at yours. So like if that's gone, if you turn this section off, that's all gone. Now all of a sudden it says your profile badges, skills you have learned. It says a lot more information up top and gives you a better user experience for them.
Nice. That's awesome. For some of those people out there right now, it's interesting. My people also viewed does happen to have some of our other fantastic guest speakers that have been on our speaker series events. So if you are looking for some of them, you may be able to find them via mine. But yeah, for everybody else out there, I know that's a very, very narrow use case of that being helpful.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right. So I'll go back to the deck now, but I'm glad I don't know what triggered that, but I know that's like one of those little tidbits. It's like, that's worth something there. That's some really good advice that if you use, you will see a little bit more of we can't track how long they stay on our page because LinkedIn doesn't give us that, but I guarantee you're going to buy another 10 seconds. So I see a question going in the chat. I can send you guys afterwards something on that if you can't see it, but it's in the settings. I think it's also on your profile page. If you go, I think I can send something afterwards. I don't want to dwell on it right now because I still have a couple things left I want to cover with you guys. Headline. That headline, let's just give you some strategy on it. I'm not going to be too bossy on you with this in the sense of how to write it, but I want to give you some strategy on it. I want you in your headline to really tell people what you're going after. Like you're going after a job role you want, or maybe you already have it. Tell them what you are. Use some keywords in your market analysis, especially the ones that are up top, the ones we know they're looking for. Also, we might want to put something here that's eye-catching if you have the ability. Hard part is it's 120 characters. For me, eye-catching was just telling people I help coding boot camp students land the first high-paying job as a software or professional software developer. Mine's a little bit different because I'm going for it from a business perspective. That's what I'm going for. But the strategy still applies to you. You want to do one of these three things. Tell them that, use your keywords, or give something eye-catching or intriguing. Hard part is those 120 characters, but that's what I did. That works for me. But this is where it's very up in the air for you. But if you go after one of those three things, you'll be doing really well.
A quick follow-up question. Sorry to jump in here. I will let you run through these headline don'ts because this may be answered in the context of that question.
All right, we'll see.
Yeah.
For one, we got to make it not spammy. Spammy includes everything being keywords, like the whole thing being keyworded. That's spammy. If it feels like a robot wrote it, that's spammy. Too many certs, too many abbreviations. There's ServiceNow is a very popular provider out there where people have a lot of certifications for. Or what's the other? There is that Salesforce certifications and AWS certifications. Do not put every certification under the sun in your headline. It doesn't look well. It goes back to being spammy. Flood with keywords that don't move the needle. Like, we don't want to flood it anyway. But if we're putting keywords in that are at the bottom of your market analysis, you are wasting your time with what you're putting in there. I'll leave it at that. Summary, actually, let me leave it right there. Dodge, what was the question? Because I realized I didn't go crazy on the don'ts.
No, that's perfect. One of the questions taken out here, so for Leah's asking, what can you add in the job description if you're currently between jobs? And I think this might apply to that headline as well. I've been seeing people use ONO, open to new opportunities.
Yep.
What are kind of your thoughts here? And I think you probably tie it back to that specific one that you're going for, right? Not just leaving it to open to new opportunities.
So I would say, so you can do the abbreviation. I've seen that too. I don't really like it, to be honest, because I don't think it's explicit. It's like when I have to go look stuff at Urban Dictionary, I don't really appreciate it as much then, because once I go look at Urban Dictionary, I see what that means. I'm like, oh, that's all that meant. And I keep moving on. So like, I'd much rather something just explicitly telling me looking for new opportunities or looking for an opportunity here, specifically using a verb like looking, an action, something you're doing something for this. So I would say a great way to start out is, if that's what you're doing, if you're looking for an opportunity, do that. Something I also teach in my course, I'll just give you a quick tidbit on, you said it was Leah? That's that. Leah, quick tidbit for you. One of the best things you can do is look at your competition here to see what people in your area are saying. So use the search filters up above in your LinkedIn and use some of the advanced search queries and look for people that are actively looking for jobs and seeing what they're saying, and check in on them every day. And here's why. Check in on the same search queries every day and see, and maybe keep track of the people so you know if they get out of the search query. But look for the people that are looking and see what they're using and see what's working in your area. Because if those people are looking for opportunity, and a month later they're all finding jobs and people are saying, I need an opportunity, aren't, clear distinction there. How you word stuff potentially intrigues people differently or works better in your area. But as is, you follow in the footsteps of the people who have been to where you want to be, right? If you keep track of them and you keep track of what keeps coming back in the search algorithms through the query filters you put on, and you keep track of them every day and you pay attention, you will see what is or isn't working. You will see what is happening with people out there without actually having to call them up. But in general, I like to put like looking for people, if that's really what you want, or the job title, like software engineer looking for a new opportunity. I go vice versa, but generally I go either or, but I would err on the side of put the job title I want and then looking for it. It is very much how the reaction comes from people and what you're seeing.
Yeah, and make sure that for people, those recruiters who are going to go view it, that they have just that sense of direction on which kind of position that you're looking for, what field, what space that you're in. So one less piece of detective work that they have to do, right? You're just making their job a little bit easier for them, which is always going to be helpful.
That's basically it. Yeah, that everything is making it to. I'll leave it there. We can continue on unless you had something else.
No, that's perfect. That's perfect.
All right. So summary criteria. I think this is the last thing I wanted to give a couple things here on your summary, because I don't want to be, so like some of the stuff I do in my courses, like I go super verbose on like, you have to do this, this, and this. I realize here tonight, I want to leave this more open-ended with you guys, give you guys some guardrails, some guidelines to follow. First and foremost, summary criteria. Your summary for your LinkedIn has to be over 75 words. It just has to be. I realize that's a vague response. Let me be more specific. It has to be over 75 words, because that will make them, that hits over the show more number for one. So if they're intrigued, they'll for one click more, and you get more opportunities to talk. But if it is under that and there is no show more and it's just like 2 sentences, it doesn't look very good on you. And then you have less opportunities and less words to show up in the search with keywords. Also, a call to action. I was talking about that story earlier, when it frustrates me when people don't have a GitHub link, they don't have a way to contact them. Like they keep it very like, here's my profile, but you can't contact them. You can't look at anything else I do. That's it. No, give us some call to actions. Put some call to actions even at the bottom of your summary to say, hey, you want to chat with me here, email me here, check out these links. Put a couple links so that people can go. So when they hit show more, they have the opportunity to get it. Also add it as media files. That helps as well. One of the questions here I get all the time is first person versus third person. Mm-hmm. In a resume, I'm going to tell you third person always. In a LinkedIn summary, it goes both ways, because you can copy what comes over from your resume and put it right in, and no one's going to bat an eye. But summaries are your opportunity to be more personable, to show yourself off, to really, be that personality and drive who you are in your LinkedIn by going first person. So that is A-okay. You'll see a lot more profiles on LinkedIn being first person. It's not that one way is so much better than the other, but they both work. But people like for themselves to express themselves. It's a personal preference. There is no really proven data that I've found to show one way works over the other. Even for my own students, I've found no way to show one worked better than the other.
One thing that I do want to pick out from here, and we've mentioned it a couple times, is where to put our keywords and how to think about using keywords with our LinkedIn profile. And a question from Mike here in the Q&A. Any thoughts on adding keywords? And is there a specific section where these should be emphasized in? Should it be in the summary? Should it be in our headline? Is it more of a little bit goes a long way, or should we really be looking to kind of saturate the portfolio or the profile with buzzwords and with our keywords?
So a little bit goes a long way in each section. Overall, you should saturate the profile by having keywords, a couple keywords in the header. You could probably have more than a couple. You could probably have anywhere from 5 to 10 in the summary. You could put some more if you really need to. But then having keywords in the experiences, keywords in the bullet points, keywords in the volunteer experience, keywords in the education. Overall, in the end, you're going to have 25 to 50 to 100 keywords throughout the entire portfolio, which feels like it's saturated then, yes. But in each section, you got to be selective. Less is more in each section. Now, in a summary section, you can get away with, listing off 3 to 4 to 5 of them in a row. And then maybe throughout a couple other sentences, you drop a couple more in. But we're looking generally 5 to 10 here from your job description. Or not job description, from your job market your market analysis, from all those job descriptions. That's what you want to put in here. So does that answer the question, Dodd? I think there's one other piece of it that I missed.
No, I think that makes sense. And I think one of the things it does too is goes back to that idea of controlling the narrative a little bit, and also just making sure that you're putting yourself out there consistently, that what somebody finds in one section is consistent with what they find in another, is what consistent with they find on your resume, to your LinkedIn, to your portfolio. That consistency is always going to be a positive thing.
Yeah. I think to your point, that's why I also say in the beginning, copy your resume over. If you've done your resume right and you've keyworded your resume right, you wrote it right. And like, that's part of stuff I love to teach too, is like getting the keywords right on that and getting that all framed just right. You can just put it right on in. You don't really got to focus too much. It's there. You've done your due diligence and your work. So, yeah. Last thing on this section are the summary criteria. And I think this is the last point to sum a lot of this up tonight and bring us near a close, is numbers. Do not forget numbers. Proof is in the numbers. Proof is in specifics. And I believe tonight I've been super specific with you on everything. And I'm going to be extra specific here. You got to have specific numbers through and through. And if it's specific numbers on, let me pull it on over even in my own, let me go backwards, even in my own profile, we can come down here and you'll see instantly, actually, let's go into the Fidelity one because people always like to see that you'll see every one of my bullet points has a number with it. Whether it's I've affected 30 people, I brought 10K in mentoring, I've hired 14 developers, I've done a hackathons with 250 developers, like numbers, because numbers have proof behind it generally. Just vague statements or statements of you've done something don't always, but numbers prove something to people. So put them in there. They also are very eye-grabbing. People, if you've ever seen any of those user research or studies where they watch people's eyes, really cool. They gravitate towards numbers. It's a shown thing that really works well on LinkedIn and resumes in general, not just LinkedIn, sorry, resumes in general.
And that even if somebody doesn't have necessarily an idea before going in of what that good, impressive number would be, just having that in there is going to is going to anchor them to that performance, right?
You got it.
That's awesome.
That brings us to the end, Dodge. What you take it away, man, wherever you want to go from here. That's what I had. I know that's a hell of a lot of stuff. I don't even know if we're going to I don't even believe we can get to the portfolio stuff now. Pardon me on that. We can always do another speaker series, I imagine.
I was actually just about to say probably a similar thing. We can talk a little bit maybe about our portfolio and how we think about that in the context of some of these Q&A pieces. But I definitely think that we'd probably love to have you back for a second follow-up one here, talking even deeper about those portfolio pieces beyond just making sure that you have your GitHub there, making sure that you have that call to action to it. So from here, yeah, I know we're kind of running up against our scheduled time. I want to be respectful of your time and everybody else's out there. So I'd love to open up the floor here to our Q&A. I know we have a good number in that queue already. If you have any questions on any of the pieces that we've talked about or any of the other LinkedIn things that you might have been wondering coming into the session, please post those there. I'm going to start working through those just in order of upvotes first, and then chronological order after that to make sure that we're knocking out as many of these as possible. So real quick, Joshua asks, I'm curious what Jason thinks about the LinkedIn skills assessments. I know we mentioned certifications and some of those other pieces before that, but for LinkedIn skills assessments specifically, are those good for the job search, or do they kind of flag you as more of that junior role?
So, it's funny that you asked that. That is a TBD. I have not. That's actually something I've been searching on recently. I know it's been out for a while, but I honestly brushed it off for a long time because I was like, this is just like Upwork, and this is just like there's a couple of different places they've put these tests in before, and they've always flopped because people haven't used them in the end. I have some recruiter friends that I haven't got a great answer out of them yet. And it's something actually I've been actively working on to answer that question. Honestly, I don't know if it has a great impact right now, but what I can tell you is if you didn't do well on them, that's going to hurt you more than if you didn't take it at all.
Yeah, and maybe something that maybe even thinking about it as if that skill assessment is present and it feels like it's an important one from your job market analysis, to maybe make sure that you're highlighting that in your portfolio projects instead, and being able to talk about where those pieces come in that portfolio project, tying it back to the work that you've already done. But yeah, overall still TBD here. Question from Mike: how should a student in Thinkful or Block list the course on LinkedIn? Same on a resume. I've seen apprenticeship, mentorship, course, etc. listed by different students, and was curious about that piece.
So the boot camp response, most boot camps will tell you to put it as an apprenticeship, which that's okay. That's fine. Like put it as apprenticeship, put it as experience, 8 months, 6 months, whatever it was. Great. That works. That's one way. There's nothing wrong with that way. Personal preference, personal experience with people who aren't familiar with boot camps and working with hiring managers and helping them out in their own hiring process that aren't familiar with them whatsoever. When they look at resumes that have this whole idea of apprenticeship, they kind of like, what is the right word? Balk or what is the like they kind of like, that ain't real. like, because they're like, that's a boot camp, that's not an apprenticeship. Like, people who already have negative connotations with it don't do well with seeing it as an apprenticeship. And I've seen that in an older company, and for one, it's annoying to me because I think it's not fair to the people just because they put it as apprenticeship over an education, that for one, that you think you have a place to stand on higher than anyone else. But I've seen it, so I know I actually recommend people to stay away from it. I recommend people to put education and then list off the things they've learned in the education and be very detailed on very detailed on everything they gained and everything they accomplished over the 6 months with links, with media. But I advocate to put it in the education section. And that way you can still show the experience you have. If you have no experience, that's fine. We could have the discussion on moving up there. But I've just seen with how people react, react better with it being in the education section because it truly is education over an apprenticeship, right? Electricians go through real apprenticeships. Boot camps are really educations for us. Like, it's a time to get educated and get maybe the cert or whatnot. But that's where personal preference, that's the way I go just because of what I've seen and how I've seen people react. Fun fact, I've actually hired 3 boot camp students. And so I've kind of changed the narrative in my own area of where I work on hiring them. But it wasn't done through apprenticeships.
Yeah. And I was going to say that probably also ties back to maybe some of those nuances that you were talking about with the differences between local tech markets, right? That one of those things might be just more generally accepted there. One of those might not be. I think above all, probably the nature of that question was just wanting it to be, how am I being authentic and honest and upfront about this experience? If you are working with, if you are in a Thinkful block program and you're working with that career services team, just make sure that you're digging into the local, whatever is going to be best for your local market as well, along with thinking about those pieces that Jason was mentioning there.
I want to add on one last small thing to that, and then I'll let you throw us to another question. Is one of the things you've probably seen from over the night of just hearing me talk and hearing me give some different advice on stuff. I err on the side of caution in the sense of, if I've seen somebody respond bad to it, but I've never seen anyone respond bad the other way, I'm going to go the other way because I know I'm not going to piss off, an extra 20% of people, or I'm going to leave it more open so that I have the ability to be accepted by more people. I will err always towards that. So there is nothing inherently wrong with apprenticeship. It does work. I just don't think I've seen it work enough over the other way.
Makes a ton of sense. Awesome. Excellent question. We're going to keep it moving. Jeremy asked, should we keep experience in our LinkedIn profile that does not directly apply to that position we're seeking? So older experiences before making that career change, maybe.
Yes, you should, because you have the ability to teach them about the soft skills and the intangible things you bring to the job, whether it's communication, whether it's experience. One of the things I love when people, especially people in their 40s and 50s and even 60s, who I've helped get jobs out of Thinkful, when they come to me and ask me about that same question, and I tell them every time to put them in, they're like, why would I put it in? Well, for one, it shows you have a professionalism to you. 2, you have the ability to show them how you handle meetings, handle communication, how you do all the other aspects of the job that a 20-year-old has no freaking clue how to do. Because I know when I was 22, getting in the workforce, I could send an email, but it doesn't mean it was worded correctly, or I sent maybe too many. Like, I didn't know how to be super professional at that point. And that's something that you bring in a lot of different aspects when you have other experience. Like, you bring something out of that. There's always something to pull, whether it was you have the responsibility, the accountability, the communication. Like, there is something in it that I know if we sit down and talk together, I'll pull it out of you because I can find it every time. There is something there. I encourage you to keep it on there. There is an extent, though, like if it goes 10 years back and it's really irrelevant, take it off. But anything within the last 5 years that can help you, I feel like that's 5 years and up, good to put on there.
Awesome. Yeah. Caitlin, any advice on finding good mentors? I guess in general. It's a pretty big question.
Well, see, at Coding Career Fastlane, there's lots of great mentors there. You're always open there. So if we're talking the context, I'd be curious more of the context. Is this context of like finding a good mentor in like a Thinkful aspect, or like a outside of Thinkful, like in a mentor in the career aspect. I'll go both real quickly. Finding a good mentor is generally someone who is exactly one you can validate their results and what they've done. You know for certain they are who they say they are, but someone who has been to where you want to go, someone who you can communicate with effectively and not feel like it's forced or it's just an awful engagement. You want someone you can feel like you can be open with and have a communication like channel with. You do not want to try to find a mentor or go find one that you don't think you communicate with well, or that it just isn't going to hear you out. You need someone that you feel like you can be open with. A lot of times that takes a conversation for one, but the other part I was giving, you can find them through watching them on YouTube. You can find them through looking at your own work and where you're at now. You can reach out to your own network and see who in your network is mentor material. There's lots of different ways, but ultimately it's who do you think you're already looking up to? And do they have something, or have they been where you want to go, and can they help you? Look in your own network first, then look out. If you have other questions, feel free to reach out to me. I can help be more specific. I realize I'm running out of time, so I don't have much more time to say it, but I'm hoping that little bit helps.
That's perfect. Yeah, and a great question there as well. Next question, is it better to show non-comp sci college degrees, or would you hide those? For example, a bachelor's in biology. I think this will probably go back to some of that question about the experience too.
Yeah, it does. You're right on, Dodge. I would not hide it. This goes for two reasons: humans and robots, in the sense of application tracking systems. I imagine you guys have heard them. Application tracking systems will find that out and put you in a different pile faster than you know it. And whether good or bad, that happens. So put it on there. Search algorithms were also in LinkedIn, can also check if you even just have a degree, not necessarily the specific degree because there's too many random ass degrees out there, but it can also just check that you have a degree. So it is worth putting on the resume and LinkedIn to help you out. I would never take it off because it shows you have done your due diligence to have higher education, whatever the hell that higher education means.
Yep.
Most of the time it's a piece of paper, to be honest, because that's what I felt like my college was like, a piece of paper.
That's our next, our other speaker series. That's a whole nother hour-long conversation that you and I could get into with that. Awesome. Denise asks, with regard to geography, this is updating your geography settings. What if you're looking to potentially relocate for Mississippi to Seattle?
Looking or want, so you haven't picked yet, it sounds like. Is that, am I clear in that question then, Dodge? Haven't picked yet?
I guess so, yeah. Looking to relocate. Because I imagine if maybe a significant other or somebody, you're moving for some reason already and that's already set in stone, you can make that clear. You can say moving to Seattle, or or just probably just update it to Seattle at that point if that's already like the set thing.
Yeah. It's hard because I think you're right. You can put that in there. Let's go off just updating the geography. As soon as you update the geography, you're going to get a whole new slew of recruiters. But if you keep changing your location, they will notice this, and they will not, like, you could do twice and they will never know. Like, they won't have a problem, but they do find people who are changing it purposely to just try to get a bunch of different recruiters and constantly moving around. They will find those people out and they will suspend their accounts for trying to hack the algorithm or they get weird reasons sometimes. With just two locations, they're not going to bother you, but at the same time, it's not an immediate thing. So like you change it, it's going to take a bit for them to show up, like the recruiters, the people in your inbox. I wouldn't change it until you actually know which one you move, just because changing one to the other, unless you're actively trying to make a ton of connections, it's not going to effectively help you one way or the other right now. I'd wait until you figure that out.
And for some of these too, as we're starting to kind of look at our timeline, and I know we're a little bit over, we're probably going to start going through these questions pretty quickly. If you do want to dive into more detail than what we can get into here, another great chance to follow up with either of us on LinkedIn. Connect with us there for deeper dives on some of these. Piyush asks, will this PowerPoint be made available after the webinar? So these slides specifically, these will not be sent out. You can catch the recording of our session. Our session is being recorded, so this link will be emailed to your email. That'll just get sent to the same one that you signed up with. So that's a great way to review all of the information that we're going to talk about, or that we've talked about tonight, just as a refresher there.
Can I add one injection on that, Dodge?
Yeah, of course.
So to answer why that will not be sent out specifically on like my deck here. So I have one of my paid products that I teach is a LinkedIn one, and I have 10 phases where you build a portfolio, you make connection, or the profile, you make connections, you do etiquette and messaging, you engage with people and you interact. I teach you how to understand the algorithm. Giving you a LinkedIn strategy, LinkedIn SEO, content creation, advanced tactics, and then analytics. Like I have a full product suite there. It's absolutely kick-ass. But a lot of what you saw tonight comes from the first lesson in Profile One. So it's part of my paid product, and that's where it's got to stay, to be honest. So watch the recording all you want, but I can't pass out the slides.
Yeah. Great question. Great answer. Another question, if you're currently pursuing a degree, should you put that on LinkedIn, even if it's not completed yet?
Yes, because you'll still show up in the search. This is like one of those search hack algorithm things. You will still show up in the search. I would be very clear on it in saying you haven't completed it, whether it's just putting the dates properly on there, but also being very clear. I think the dates will do enough. But I've just seen sometimes when people try not to put the dates and they just try to make it seem like it's a graduated. Don't do that. Say it if it's not graduated yet, or put the proper dates. But yeah, I would still put it on there because you'll show up more than likely in a search.
Or saying pursuing a degree in. Yeah. Nothing wrong with that, but is something wrong if it looks like you're trying to deceive people about it.
Yep.
What number should I add when I'm just out of boot camp with no prior experience? Getting back to anchoring some of that work with those numbers there.
Number? So numbers can be in your project. So if you have no prior experience, that's one of the things I like to teach when I help people write resumes, is teaching them how to put numbers in their projects and making it more about your projects and your education, and completely leaving off your experience section altogether. If there is a little bit of experience, I like to try to pull it out if there is some, but if there's not some at all, that's fine. Focus on 2 to 3 different projects, have numbers in those projects, and then really focus on numbers in your education and blow up the education system.
Awesome. Just looking through the rest of these questions that we have here and keeping our time in mind. If it's a question that is like very specific to, maybe a little bit narrower, more specific to you, I'm going to read it, but then also maybe request that you just follow up with Jason and I kind of directly there on LinkedIn to dig into that. And for other questions that are out here that are more generally applicable for everybody, we'll get into those here while we've got everybody together. But I just want to be, again, respectful of everybody's time, which I know we're already over. So for Kathleen's here, left a job to start that full-time freelance work, now getting back into that job market to supplement the freelancing. Any tips on how to address this in the profile? I think this is one of our very kind of a little bit more narrow use cases. Kathleen, definitely connect with myself. Or if Jason, if you had a couple quick thoughts on that one.
Easiest thing, well, you connect. Yeah, when you have much more detail, like specific ones, it's much better just reach out and ask. But I would say this, right below your location, in your profile, right below locations, connections, and contact, you have the ability to put the services you can provide that you want to promote. Make sure you have those there. Make sure you have examples if it's freelancing perspective, and just make sure you know it. So that way when people like we did with Dodges come to his, it shows the services he promotes right away.
Awesome. Do you have any tips for handling gaps in employment on LinkedIn? How you should talk about that, or if that's something that you should be calling attention to, or kind of just waiting for somebody to ask about?
It depends. I'm not going to physically, I don't want to actually know what the gap is, because I've learned not to ask that question sometimes, because the gaps can be personal. But you want to do your best to make it known on the resume what it is. And so if that's an education you went off and took, just try to line the dates up. If it's you went off to have a kid, that's just one of those, you are just going to have a gap, and that is it. You can take off say you jumped out of the market, you were in the job hunt for 2 years, or you were in the job for 2 years, you dropped off, you went and let's just say had a kid, or let's say you took a sabbatical. I don't know. You took about a year and a half off. You can drop off that bottom experience if you really want to, because it goes back to us saying you're controlling the narrative. You can control it, but you just want to be careful with it. More often than not, you're going to have a gap, and you have to be prepared to explain it and talk through it, because when they're personal, I've learned most of them are personal stories. You have to be able to talk through it or acknowledge it and then say you don't want to talk about it. And that's not vague. I think it's specific enough to get the point across, but that's one of those ones that each one of those can be different. Feel free to reach out and ask questions on, because they're all a tiny bit different.
Yeah. I think that last thought there is probably going to apply to a couple of these. So what key tips would you give a new Thinkful student with an investment banking background trying to get into a finance-related data science role? And then with a slightly different background, tips for an arts and education professional transitioning into data science.
Are both Thinkful students?
I'm not sure. So one of those questions had Thinkful specifically. The other did not there.
The Thinkful, the person in Thinkful, just message me on Slack at Green Pioneer. Just message me your question there. I'll answer on the Thinkful Slack. In general for both, the best thing, this is where I know we're running out of time, so I got to be to the point with what I say in a sentence or two. What I would say is utilize your talent you're bringing with you. Utilize what you've learned in these other industries. Some of the most successful students I've ever had come through a boot camp took what they knew. Let me do this the other way. They took Thinkful and what they learned, and they took what they knew in their previous experience, and they put it together and worked for a new company that was either built, like prime example, one of my students was working for Apple as a support service. He was a high-level support engineer, been there for years. Went and got a job working at a company working on support software. Who do you think wanted to pay him more? The company that just wanted a programmer, or the company that wanted someone who knew support software and was a programmer? And so I see a lot of success, not just, I realize that one's validated a little bit in money, but also he was very successful because he already knew the industry. Finding a way to pair what you're good at with what you're just learning now is something to keep in mind that can be very influential for you going forward, especially if you liked what you did.
Awesome. Yeah, that's fantastic. I would echo that 100%. And then for both of those questions as they came in, again, connect with us, please. For Leah, what were those remaining key points in the headline strategy slide? If we were maybe moving too fast, but those were listed on there, definitely check out the recording. You can make sure that we pause on that headline strategy.
I'll say it real quickly. Going after the job role you already have or want, or going after the job role you want, already have, using the market analysis keywords, going with something eye-catching or intriguing, keeping it to 120 characters.
Beautiful. And now that is in the recording a second time, so we are covered there. Last two questions. So this one, a quick yes or no for you. Do you see a lot of value in LinkedIn alerts for job openings?
Say it one more time.
Yeah.
I'm turning that thing off.
Yeah, no worries. Do you see a lot of value in LinkedIn alerts for job openings, for job seekers?
Oh, job alerts? Yeah, I think job alerts. I do see a lot of value in job alerts, especially if you set them up correctly. Being there in the first 10 actually has a little bit of incentive, or being there, I think, is it the first 10 to apply or something like that? Yes, there is incentive to do that and to pay attention to them and actually apply effectively as fast as you can within reason. If you want to put cover letters in, obviously you got to take a couple minutes, but yes, there is some advantage to job alerts.
Awesome. And then our very last question here. Francesca asks, I'm in the process of polishing up my LinkedIn profile. If I have any further questions from this webinar, where would be the best place to ask? So this is perfect. This kind of helps us wrap up our session in a very neat, concise way. You can always reach out to either of us on LinkedIn. We've shared our LinkedIns. If you have more questions about Thinkful specific programs, maybe you're just getting started on that learning journey, you can email that virtual@thinkful.com. There's also more information about the course in our reference sheet that is available up there in the handouts. So again, at the very bottom of that reference sheet, we've got information about the software engineering course, that flex page, and even an application process if you'd like to get that started. For more, if you have additional further questions on some of those key pieces that Jason was talking about, some of that incredible insight and expertise that Jason was sharing with us today, I believe I posted it in the chat up earlier, but I'll leave it again here in our chat. And that website is Coding Career Fastlane. Let me go grab that. There we go. Yeah, Jason, anything to add to that last question there?
So for one, I've been teaching at Thinkful for 5 years. I absolutely love the program. I love helping people change their lives through code. If this intrigues you, follow up definitely on the bootcamp side and see what Thinkful is all about. And if you're curious on more Thinkful or more LinkedIn stuff, feel free to reach out and ask. I currently don't have my LinkedIn as its own separate course. I have it as a larger package. But I've been contemplating pulling it out and seeing if people want it. If you want to know more, feel free to ask. What's the worst anyone can ever say? But feel free to ask, especially if you're interested, because that helps me understand, what do people want. But yeah, this is what I do. I thoroughly enjoy it. You guys probably see. I love giving the tips. I love helping people figure out exactly what they're looking for. So if you have questions, reach out. Ask away. There's so much I could offer to you. All it takes is a question.
Yeah, like Jason said, this is what he does, and clearly this is what he does very well. So as we're wrapping up, I want to give out a couple quick big thank yous, and that first one, of course, goes to Mr. Jason Humphrey for being our special guest speaker here today. I know you are a very, very busy man, and so any of the time that I get to spend with you, I appreciate that, and I know everybody out here appreciates all of those insights that you got to share with us today. The second big thank you that I have goes out to everybody for joining us today. I know you probably all had tons of different ways that you could spend your time, and I'm really glad you chose to spend it here with us. We always enjoy talking with each other anytime we get to catch up, anytime we get to talk shop on any of this. But these conversations, they really do become much more bright, much more colorful, much more engaged when we have a group like this, introducing themselves from the start, sharing things in the chat, asking those great questions, and really contributing to that great discussion. So I definitely want to spend some time thanking Jason and everybody for joining in today and making today's event just a fantastic, fantastic way to kick off the week here.
Thank you, Dodge. You were a wonderful host. I think you answered From my point of view, you did well to handle me talking a bunch and then handle a bunch of questions coming in and making it all flow. It was very seamless. I think it was a fantastic event.
Awesome. Well, with that, thank you, Jason. I didn't do too much. I just got to benefit from your expertise here. You make my job over here real easy. But yeah, with that, we are going to wrap up today's session. A reminder, you can get that recording. It'll be emailed to you so you can reference all of this great information that we've been talking about. If you have any other questions after we wrap up, you know where to find us, and we look forward to hearing from everybody after our session. So that'll do it for us. This has been Thinkful Speaker Series, LinkedIn Optimization, and Impressive Portfolios. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, a great rest of the week ahead, and maybe we'll see you all on Student Slack real soon. All right. Goodbye, everybody.